Perfect. Great. Onegaishimasu. Great. Let's do that. Shaking us a little bit. Direction. Out to the sides, just a little bit of circles on the eyes. Just at the top. Circle on the right side. That's the left. Take it out one way. Little way. Great, swinging the arms from the shoulders. Back. Great, settling the feet down, just make it a bigger swinging through the knees. Yeah, perfect. Just going to the ankles a little bit, mobilizing with the toes up. Working both ways. Right, then just carefully with the toes down in the ground, bend over. Shake it out a little bit, roll it, circles. You're just spreading out the toes as well. And then just spread them out. The other side. Great, curling the toes under. Nice and good. Now, moving in circles. Spreading the toes out. Right into the knees. Toes. A little bit wider, wider than it. From the outside. Great, bend and straighten back. Taking it all the way down, holding at the bottom. With a little bit of pressure with the arms, pressing in with the legs, pressing out with the arms. Oh, perfect. A little bit wider. Rocking side to side. A little bit wider, move down. And the hips across the other side. One more. Great, bringing the legs in a little bit with the hands, rotating through the spine. Perfect. Rotating the hips, the circles. Both ways. Just a little bit with the arms. Yep, swinging the chest a little bit, coiling, front and back. Side to side. Work in any direction. Great, start to take it into the shoulders. Lengthening the arms out, spreading the shoulders out, so rotating the front and back. Working on elbow. The other one. Put your both together. Right to the wrists, circle in. Great, and then really think about stretching out through the fingertips, opening the hand out, and fingers splitting away from each other. Same time, pressing them away from the palm. Great, you're just going to work from this position, work with a fizz, tight, and then spreading the hands out. I'm just going a little bit higher, fizz, spread the palms out, fizz, work all the way up to the top. And once you're at the top, just work your way down. And then here, just play with the palm out, fingers down, stretching out as far as you can, and then just gently taking the head away from that. Drop the opposite shoulder as well. So, great. Releasing that one to the other side. Stretch the palm out. Start to take the head away from it. And we just go a little bit to the neck. Nice big circles, slow. Especially on the back. In both directions. Great. And then just play with the neck mobility here, front and back. Great, start to pass the movement down into the chest. So you get that kind of motion. Let it pass into the shoulders. Into the hips. Now let the hips kind of hinge. Knees start to go. And if you want, also play with passing into the feet. So you're kind of going through the heels and toes as well. So just play with like a front back wave. The body. Let the hands go as well with the motion. Just explore it here, passing the movement up and down the spine. A good thing to visualize this also, or you can actually do it. Imagine there's a wall in front of you, and you're kind of touching the different parts of the body against the wall. And movements passing a line down the body. And then making it more specific for Aikido, think about now a kind of 𝒂𝒄𝒄𝒄 movement. So keep the sense of the spiral. Don't worry so much about being kind of coming into a set pattern, but think about now the sense of the key thing with this is as the back engages, or as the hands engage forward, think about the back also kind of engaging. So what you don't do in this case is like that kind of movement. Think about the back basically pressing the movement out. It's going to be a little bit more grounded. But keep that sense of flexibility in the back, especially playing here with the shoulders and the shoulders' ability to really stay mobile in this case. That's it. That's it. That's it. And as you're doing this motion with the hands, just listen to also what's happening with the legs as well. You'll notice. You notice like a balance movement, the legs are going to have to kind of integrate with that movement as well. So the same similar things happening from the arms and the legs. That's it. Right. Yes. And then see this now, this is really like mobility. Now the limits, where you want to go is more into stability work. Now they're kind of, they're in the same realm, but the limits of my mobility are also the limits of the stability of the joint as well. So just watch now the benefits of being overly flexible. There's also big drawbacks as well. The structure starts to really come out and get into a really weak position. So play with mobility, but have an idea now that you're actually kind of pressing weight out. So imagine you're kind of pushing objects and also receiving weight into the body. And yet you can also do this with a wall. Walls are really great kind of feedback for this. But just imagine now the structure is going to come under pressure, and you're going to meet that pressure, not with tension, but not with rigidity, but with structure. So you're going to have structure behind the pressure. So if you imagine kind of pressure coming into the palm, think about receiving it, and pressing it out also. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it, perfect. Yeah, and you try and find a relationship again. This is why walls are really great for this, because they make this really clear. Think about the connection not only with the arms but with the ground as well. So you've got the same, and you've got the same thing happening. This kind of movement, the legs are going to roll with the movement. The same thing here. I want as the pressure's coming in through the hand, I want to meet it also with the pressure of the foot. So you're actually going to make changes from the ground. Once you've got that in place, think about the pressure's actually going to come from the body. And if I can keep this mobile, and I can keep mobility here, then you can start to make changes in the body. But play with the idea of now contact with the ground as you do it. And even if you're not doing this with a wall, play with the feeling of pressure in and out of the ground. And it's just experimenting with pressure, just the feeling of the weight dropping through the limb and coordinating that with the handwork. So, yeah, that's it. Nice. Great. So just take this into the same idea into a little bit of tiny henko. So you've got the first movement here, which is down. Really focus on this part. Again, you've got the feet and the arms basically mirroring each other. So this feeling down in the arm is also matching in the base of the body. This feeling kind of going into the ground. And then tiny henko is really like a study of also like how to transfer the weight with that pressure. So you're not doing anything with it. You're just kind of bringing it with you. So you get that shape, bring the weight with you. Whereas later, like 𝒂𝒄𝒄𝒄 is basically about kind of starting to manipulate the weight across and change the person. In this case, just as a kind of blending exercise. And for a solo, just a kind of weight shift exercise through a rotation. It's that very first part, getting that weight locked in and keeping it. just play with this idea. Again, it comes from the weapon work. This idea of this is the challenge of the weapon work. Like you've got the weapon in front of you, and it's in the front of the body, and all the weights at the front. But basically, how do I organize the body around the bokken where I feel like I'm basically underneath it? So then all these raising movements are very easy. But at the moment, I feel like I'm on top of the bokken. All these raising movements are going to be really hard. So the same idea here when you do this. Think about I can be basically on top of the joint here, on top of the joint system, in which case I'm going to go into these kind of movements. I can have the feeling that I'm basically underneath it. So the feelings like draining off the limb underneath it. So just feel whether it's basically the axis of the body is also, the chest is also important with this, the head. Like that, those kind of movements are basically going to put me into the front of the limb, crunching the shoulders, crunching the neck, and the feeling of if I can open the body out, access the back of the body, you're going to start to be able to access the back of the joint, the underside of the joint. And then again, see if you can basically keep it as you go through these motions. Again, anything which is going to crunch me down is going to bring me back into the front of the limb or the top of the limb. So just think here about the underside of the limb. Okay, just take this into this movement now. So you find the Taina Henko, still the basic, and then just think about connecting this side of the body, the right side, and you're just going to continue it in a rotation to the back. So you're basically going to find your position, and then just extend the rotation out. The key with this one again is let the center kind of drive the movement. And again, this idea of keeping the underside of the limb, what you don't want to do is let the top take over. So access the underside, get the back engaged, and then start to play with kind of pressing that movement through. But you're basically keeping that kind of shape through the system, through the body. Just allowing the body to rotate around. This is a kind of step between the Kihon and that kin-nagara form, which is like a rotation. Yeah. Great, so we'll take this into the kind of full kin-nagara form. So what you do in this one is, again, this is where the kin-nagara and the Kihon, usually there's kind of changes in the footwork. So in this case, the change is this, the Kihon goes in, rotates, and in this one, the feeling is much more of leading the person through. So you're not rotating in, you're coiling the body, and then I'm joining that motion in. So that's the first kind of step of this. You coil the body, you capture the center, and then you roll with it. This is the first step. I had a great teacher one time. He was from Japan. He was a student of Yamaguchi. So he would basically do this in a way like really just walk with it. So capture the center and just walk with it basically, but do it in a way where you're kind of engaging the hips through it. So you've got the weight and then you coil the body. So now the footwork's much more flexible, especially through the back leg. You've got that and then that. And just stepping out with it. Yeah, exactly, right. That's. Yeah. Yeah, and again, it's a kind of silly exercise, and in a way, it's a kind of leading exercise. It's not a martial exercise, but it does teach some good bodywork things. So if you think about like with the sword row, it's this ability really to like get the sword into the center and then continue the body in motion. So those kind of moves we use a lot. So the mechanics of it are good. Just the application of it is in a way, it's just as a kind of leading exercise. But think as you do this, the sense that you're again keeping the body underneath, you capture the center line. Capture the center line, and now just take it anywhere you like, so you can step with it, and you can also start to continue the rotation with it this way. The key thing with this is think about the same side hip connection, so the same hip and hand and foot really start to kind of work together. And try and keep a sense of being open as well, so you kind of also the kinagari exercise really need you to be in a kind of full 360 degrees, so be kind of aware of the whole space as well. There's a tendency to kind of start to look at the hand and watch it, but really have a sense that you're opening up the body in the same way you would do with the sword. That kind of feel. Yeah, exactly. Good. Ooh, Great, we'll take this into Koki now here. So working with with Koki-𝒂𝒏. So again, really not a practical exercise, but has some good body mechanics. So we'll just start with the basic. The key now is the difference in the intention in the movement. So you're looking now to get the weight, get the center line in, and then you're looking really in this rotation to start to lead the person out of the center line and capture the center, and then you're basically passing through it. So in this case, think about really, again, gathering into the center line, dropping everything in, and then rolling, finding the extension. So you're drawing the person out of the stretcher. And then from here, passing over the top, but the hips cutting underneath and dropping in this way. We've got 1, 2, full extension, holding up, bring it into the back. Try. So there's like 2 ways you can use this as an exercise, and both of them, if you take them towards an application level or just on a technique level, they're both kind of, you can use both ideas. So the one I prefer is coming in, and using this as a feeling where you're actually getting underneath the person and then driving them down into the mat. So I think much more about this kind of motion and basically dropping them into the ground here. The other one is, as you're in this position, is cutting in with the hip, basically cutting off the body, and then the hands basically coming over the top, over the chin. So you're basically trapping the structure in the back. You can't take the ukemi properly, and then basically going over the neck. So the person's got to go over the top. And this is more of the kind of projection kind of mindset with it, which is also kind of valuable. So looks great on film. I prefer it also in terms of training in the dojo, especially when you're working in a smaller space, much more with the ability to come in and control here. And then this feeling here is like pressing down through the structure. So as if you want to kind of bury the person into the mat, underneath the mat, that kind of feeling. So that, and then that. But also play with this idea that you're actually kind of cutting across with the back hip, cutting across, and then this arm can kind of roll across this way, which is a much harder kind of technique to deal with. So. Just play a little bit with the backhand now. So again, not quite into combat level form, but think about some 𝒕𝒕 that come with this. So you've got in this one, this kind of idea of dropping in. Think about this hand and think about where the person is. So basically rolled over in this kind of position. This goes straight to the solar plexus this way down. So as you think about now this one, this is why it's also really important that the backhands integrated with this movement, so that it doesn't become just like the one hand doing it. So as this comes in now, think about as you come up over, think how can you also use this backhand to facilitate this kind of feeling. So this can now come in as a strike to the body, well, coming in this way. So just think about this as you come in. This is doing the same. This is going to come in and basically boom, press down with the body. Like a big strike with the blade of the hand. So it's rising, coming up, bam, coming down. Yeah. And then the other one is basically a fist. So this is a great one, which you can't see it as the uke. So as you come in this way, here, as you shoot in, it's a bit more like the cutting across variation, where the hips come cutting across this way. At the same time, this hand is going to come in and strike underneath here into the ribs. So again, if you think about where the uke is in this movement, you're basically exposing the rib cage here. So this fist is now, as you cut the hips across, cutting right into this kind of position with the arm. And you just can't see it's in a total dead space for the vision. So you've got that. As you cut in, think about whipping the hand across, bam. And then this is kind of finished this way. So again, it's integrating the atemi work with the movement this way. So you're here, there. So this is a little bit more explosive and a little bit more with the fifth, cutting the hip in to the back. So this way. Yeah. Great, and then just think about now this in a sense like a kinagari form. So you're basically capturing the person before they've come in, so committed to the two-hand strike. But what you're thinking about with this arm and the hip is basically coiling in this way. So you're using the same organization of the body, but you've not got like this full rotation back into it. It's much more direct form. So again, it's where the kinagari is going to kind of change it. So you've got the same idea. You're dropping in the hip, the shoulder, the mind, but you're at the same time curling it over this way. So you end up with the person basically coiling into it this way. So think about how you come in. It's more direct, but I'm still using that kind of side of the body as you do it. You don't want to go in this one with kind of a frontal kind of movement, although some styles do that. But you're going to feel that you're kind of wedging the body in, like the kind of drill work we're doing. So you've got the sense from here to here, it's kind of coiling in. And then once you've got that, just play also with the backhand. You do the same things with those hands, that kind of movement. You can also do that kind of movement coming in, but you're basically trying to compromise the structure directly, and then just continue it this way. Play with that a little bit. That's it. Yeah, kick them too. Yeah, okay, good. And that same idea is, imagine again, you're working against the wall with this. The power in this is going to come from that back leg. So just be careful in this one. You don't want to lose that footing that you're going in this kind of position, which is basically going to kind of topple over. So imagine in this case, we've got like that sword taking variation where you come in with the heel of the hand. That kind of feeling. That same kind of idea here, drive the movement from the back hip. So the ground's basically with the back hip, and then as you've got that movement, you can basically adjust into it because the weight's then shifting into the front leg. But you can only really shift the back leg once you've got that kind of established in. If I try and do them together, I'm probably going to pull the body out of structure. So think about kind of squeezing the movement from the back leg, squeezing it in, and then once you've shifted it, drive the back leg through. So yeah, it's like same hand, same foot connection. The same thing you're doing with the hand, pressure in the handwork, pressure building from the feet. And then continue it with, yeah, that's it. Great. Okay, perfect. Take a bokken. Just a little bit of some reverse. Okay, we'll just go straight in with Zengo. So you've got the cut really focusing now on this rotation and again releasing from the ground, find the spiral, find the connection with the hips. So all those same ideas, raising from the ground. Keeping the back nice and full as you cut. Okay, just play with a little bit of number 4, so the straight line 𝒊𝒏𝒕 work, but working with a step in. So really again, focusing on the weight coming in through the leg, engaging in the hips, the back leg coming in to fully stabilize the body. Great. We're going to the 5th Suguri, so going into the Okamuchi. The key thing to think about now is, and especially the variation we're going to go to next, think about this really as one motion now. So number 4's really got the raise and they're cut separate. It's like raise, cut, although you're blending it with the footwork. Think now with number 5, this is really now getting the movements to come together. So you're working with the yokumen, obviously, but really feel that you're working now the raise, the cut's one thing. So you just do one movement. One step, one cut, boom. One step, cut, boom. Just flow that really integrating the movement of the sword to the body. Nice. Yeah, and the other thing with this, think about spiral work through passing through the hands into the sword. So the 𝒊𝒔𝒐𝒏 works great. You've got these kind of movements. You're really building this kind of structure through the body. The yokumen is where you're starting to add a little bit more flexibility into it as well in terms of the joint system. So try and impart a little bit of a spiral work into this. So I can do the cut like this, where the sword just basically moves through a plane, just goes through a line. Or you can do it with a way where you're kind of coiling through the joints, so the joints are open as you do it. So just look for that. Obviously, the ski work, especially number 7, is really dealing with this much more kind of fully in terms of spirals passing through the hips. But think about that also starting here. So you're starting to have the sense of passing a spiral through the joint system into the tip of the sword. So I want it to kind of infect the tip of the sword. Yeah, but you've got this sense of kind of coiling, not exaggerated, but it's kind of subtly through the movement. Yeah. There, nice. Oh, good. So we'll play with making one cut to the front, one cut to the back, in the same way like Zengo-kiri, but with more now rotation work. So the first one, try this one. It's to the front here, just with the 𝒊𝒔𝒐𝒏, or you got the yokumen here. Just a really simple cut here, and then play with releasing the back leg in, coming through, cutting to the rear. You've got one, and then roll the whole body in. So you hold that again, that whole movement's one thing. So you've got one cut to the front, and then roll the whole body in, boom, on the backs. So, and this is done with a step from the back leg. Nice. Nice. Whoosh. 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 Do a few quick variations, then we can play them at the end. This case, you're going to do the same cut in the beginning. Again, you're going to come through with the back leg, but you're going to come into a 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒈 position here. So you're going to come into this position, and then think about releasing the hip into the cut. So now you do one step through. You end up with the left leg forward. You're in 𝒂𝒂𝒏. You're coming into the cut this way. So we've got 1, 2, 2, 3. Yeah, and with this one, especially, if you go back to this feeling like the tiny henko, this sense of being underneath the joint, and this, in this case, being underneath the source is really important for this movement to be balanced. So as you go under it, think that you're really underneath the weapon, It's as if you're squeezing the weapon up from below, rather than I go from here and do that. The weapon basically pulls me totally out of the ground. So think about that grounding here, maintain that as you step in, but press it up into a different orientation of the sword. So again, it's basically always keeping that relationship with the ground, keeping the feeling that you're underneath the weapon all the time, especially as you raise it. Next one. That's good. Yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Nina. Thank you very much. Okay, perfect. One more. We'll do this one. So you start with the same cut, just find the cut here. And then think about, in this case, you're going to move this from the front leg. You're going to roll around and strike with the back leg. This is more like a 𝒂𝒄𝒒𝒄𝒂𝒕. You've got this, roll into it, let it pass above the head, and then find the cut. This one. A little bit more dynamic. You've got 1, 2. And again, try and make that all one movement. So you do rotation with a rolling step in. This way. Yeah, watching this one. The biggest problem with this one is this. As I go into the rotation, I do this and then do it. Think with the rotation, you're gonna, again, it's like going backwards and forwards. I want the body to go back. I want the whole body to go back. I want the body to go forward. I want the whole body to go forward. In this case, you want to rotate into it. So straight away, find that the body's going to rotate into it. So really feel that you're kind of whipping around the body from the core, rather than the feeling like I'm going to shift the weight and then do it. Think that the weight's already there in the body, and I just whoop, rotate around the core, which is easier said than done. Right. Yeah, right. Tricky. Yeah, Catherine. There we go. Very good. Nice. Got it. You got it. Got it. Got it. Bam, bam. Yeah, perfect. Great. Play now with all of them, but play also with a little bit more kinagari as well. Once you get into the kind of pattern with it, the key thing now is think about the impulse from that cut. That takes you into the next one. So that's what that one's a really clear example. But the same with the others. That impulse into that kind of movement. So really, it's just about flexibility of movement. You've got what was the other one? Yeah, that to that. So really think about again that impulse in the cut now. Link it with the next movement. By just play with them a little bit. The nice kind of versatile movements, not designed to be a fixed set. Oui. Yeah. Nice. Great. We'll come back to these again probably tomorrow as well, or someday this week. Think the main thing with this, if you play with this, think about the main problem with this is that I start to get into this kind of route. I start to cut the cut itself becomes shorter. So I start to work in this kind of area rather than the idea like I'm engaging the hip. So that last like 1% of the movement is the difference between me having the ground in the movement and being able to shift it or holding the body back from the ground. In which case I start to then go into just going exaggerated, and then I'm kind of plonking around and whatever around the space. So think about every cut's gonna, I just did it in. Every cut's gonna enter the ground, enter the ground, enter the ground, enter the ground, that kind of feeling. But we'll play with this again. So another time tomorrow. Okay, great. Very good. Okay. Hey, domo, arigato. Okay, great. Very good.